ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם שהכל נהיה בדברו. Our patriarch Abraham is already 100 years old. And he hears the voice of God. And he wants to be one with God. He discovered God in his youth. And that's why he left the home of his parents. He heard the voice of God that said, go away, lech lecha, go, walk, get out of this place. You're going to be the father of a nation. It's going to be something altogether different. And in order to seal a certain understanding that Abraham has with God, a covenant it's called, a brit in Hebrew, he practices circumcision. That is one way of establishing this connection between Abraham and God. And as a matter of fact, this is what all his descendants do. At 8 days, on the 8th day, when a male child is born, we practice circumcision. And even many people that don't observe many of the other laws, when it comes to circumcision, somehow we feel that it's a very special thing. You know, according to us, all mitzvot, all instructions of the Almighty have the same weight. Yet when it comes to brit, to circumcision, it's a little bit different. I think I mentioned it already once before, that once in Venezuela where I lived, somebody passed away. He was in his 50s or something like that, relatively young man. And the people that prepared the cadaver, that because we have to wash the cadaver before you bury him, discovered that the guy had not been circumcised. So they went and asked the parents that were alive, what happened? Well, they said, we are survivors of the Holocaust. You know, and during the Holocaust, the Germans, many a time, in order to identify a Jew, they had him lower his pants to take a look. If he is circumcised, he's Jewish. So we felt, if this happened once, it can happen again. We don't want to submit our son to such a fate, to be assassinated because he's Jewish. That's why we didn't circumcise him. Let him do it. Let him do it if he wants to later on. In any event, you are not permitted really to bury a Jew that is not circumcised in the same place with other Jews. You bury him on a side. If a Jew doesn't observe the Sabbath, he works on the Sabbath, you bury him in the same place. But yet, if he's not circumcised, something different. Why is this circumcision so different? You know, I used to teach math, so I know a little bit about math. You know what an equation is? You know, two things, this is equal that. But, you know, there's an x over here, a y over here, and so for a certain value, they are the same. That's what you call an equality between two things. One is equal to the other under a certain condition, namely when x is so much and so much. If you have what is called an equation of the second degree, there are two answers, and so on. Well, that's what it is. There's something else called an identity. What is an identity? Identity means that for all values, these two things are the same. It's not only when x is so and y is so, but for all values, these two are the same. Brit is not an agreement. Like you make a commercial agreement between two people, you know what, we're going to go into society, we have a store together, and so in business we're together, but after business, each goes his own way. I have my way of living, you have your way of living. You know, many a time you're going to have a society, a commercial partnership between a non-Jew and a Jew. The non-Jew goes to the church, the Jew goes to the synagogue. They live completely different lives, and yet they have something in common, and very important, their livelihood depends on the business where they both work. That is an equation, but it's not an identity. A brit is an identity. That means I'm not going to follow God on Shabbat, and the rest of the time I have nothing to do with him. We coincide in Shabbat. No, sir. A brit means I follow everything. There is an identity between the two. Many a time we ask ourselves, how come the Jewish people feel so much for each other? They feel they have a responsibility one for the other, because it's not an equation. It is not a question that On Mondays, we have something in common because we go to the same restaurant. On Tuesday, we go to the same theater. No, sir. It means that we have everything really in common. That we feel that we share the same destiny. You know, there's a very famous Jewish organization called B'nai Brit. We are all children of this covenant, of this agreement. When Abraham entered into an agreement with the Almighty, it wasn't a question that he's going to obey, I shall not kill. You say don't kill, I won't kill. But I will steal, I will do. No, sorry. An identity means I follow everything that you have. So think about yourself, you know, you're a moral person, you're an ethical person. Well, you don't tell a lie. Does that make you ethical? An ethical behavior means that in every aspect of your behavior, you should have certain norms. You should have certain rules of conduct for everything. And your family also, you should try to come to an agreement. Create this brit, this covenant in the family. You know, in our family, we don't tell lies. We don't cheat. We are responsible one for the other. It isn't a question of one value. We have to coincide in everything. This is why our ancestors say, when the Jewish people stood at the foot of Mount Sinai, they assumed for themselves to fulfill everything, not only they, but their children as well, because we are all part of this brit, of this covenant. This covenant is horizontal, but it is also vertical in time. In other words, my children also live by that covenant, just as my ancestors lived by that covenant. Do your children live by that covenant? Are you sure that your grandchildren are going to live by that covenant? They will do as you do. Make sure that you are very sincere in everything that you do. Make sure that you follow not only one thing, but you really follow all the imperatives that our tradition imposes on each and every one of us.